Jahmar Perkins. It's crunch time. It's crunch time here, live in the studios of Austin Peay. Zach Peay, joined as always by Reece Britt and Jahmar Perkins. It's crunch time.
Zach, I know you always like to start off
right.
with asking us how our weekend was, but let's start off with you. How was your weekend,
Man,
Zach?
I appreciate that. My weekend this week was great, or the last weekend, obviously, was great. I got a chance to say goodbye to everybody for doing broadcasting on WAPX FM, Clarksville's 91.9 for football. It was my first and last time getting a chance to do that, and I was just humbled by the experience, obviously. Of course, I can still get basketball with you, but I had a great time getting a chance to call that last game with you, bud. And yeah, other than that, it was an easy, chill weekend. What about you, Jahmar? You started, so I might as well come back to you.
It was pretty chill. Got to do some work and then also watch some sports. Definitely chill. I mean, getting to kind of see some. Also, I got to check out a scrimmage for the women's basketball team. I got to see them in action a little bit. Perks of being a practice player, getting to kind of get in there. But no. Fun, worked. It was cool. But Reece, how about you?
Yeah, I was. Guys, I'm back now. Thanks to having
by
me
the way,
back,
who is
yes.
this? A ghost? What is this?
You may ask that, yes, but no, I'm back for the remainder of stuff. Just golf and everything. It had me going every which direction. But this past weekend, I got to go home. I was blessed enough to see the best college football team in the nation in the best atmosphere in the country in Neyland Stadium. I went back, saw Tennessee play Kentucky, and got to spend a little bit of time with the family. So that's always good. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really, all Reece was doing was hiding from those goalpost charges is what he was doing. But, I mean, we're not going to talk about that, obviously, because we don't want to get him in trouble. But I think that's a great transition, man. I'm glad you're back with us. We've missed you for sure.
Appreciate it.
It gives a great transition to APSU football. The Governors had a devastating loss to the Jacksonville State Gamecocks this past Saturday. 40-16 was the final score. It was the Governors' first home loss this season and the first home loss as a ranked team out of the last, 8 games, I believe. Govs were 7-0 at home as a ranked team before this last loss. They hope to get back on the winning track this week as they travel to play North Alabama. Jahmar, we were there to watch the game. It was a very different game compared to what we're used to in the Fort.
Reece, do you know what the score was at halftime?
It was 16-all.
It was.
Yeah, 16-all.
And it ended up being 40-16. I mean, that just kind of sums up the game. Very disappointing. Hate to see it, especially as far as a chance to try to get in the playoffs, which I'm being told that playoff contention is not exactly over. I mean, I'm pretty sure some things have to happen for sure, but it's not over for Austin Peay, but still very disappointing, especially in their last home game.
I mean, absolutely. And obviously, we'll find out more about their playoff contention in 17 days on November 20th, obviously, because that's the bid day, right? But yes, Jacksonville State's loss doesn't necessarily affect them because they are an FBS team now, because, Jacksonville State moving to Conference USA next season. So, and we found that out the day of the game. We were under the understanding, because they're ASUN Conference, that it would affect the play, but because they have 85 scholarships, there's nothing they can do about it. So that was great to at least know. Also the first time Austin Peay had not scored in the second half, and a team had scored on them in the second half. It was a complete role reversal between Jacksonville State and Austin Peay.
It reminded me of the Central Arkansas game. But while we're on that kind of topic of Jacksonville State, we talked about on the broadcast how possibly we saw Jacksonville State, how they turned into they were OVC, they went to the ASUN, now they're going into the FBS. Is that something that Austin Peay does here in years to come, is eventually try to be an FBS school?
And we had talked about that on air, and I said that it was something more likely, but it's not within 10 years, 5 to 10 years at least, or 7 to 10. But I mean, you being an athlete, you probably might have more about this.
I would say I think we're definitely trying to follow in the footsteps of Jacksonville State, a team like Jacksonville State,
right?
Where OVC, then to the ASUN, which is a better competition. Then you're trying to get to FBS, but it all comes down to where can you compete and where can you earn the most amount of money for your athletic department, whether that be TV, whether that be marketing and whatnot. So if you can market yourself as an FBS program, that's gonna obviously get recruits to buy in more to what you have to offer, and also it's gonna you're gonna have more TV options and such like that. So like Jacksonville State, I think I've seen them play on national television, ESPN, ESPN2 three times this season.
A few times.
That's definitely an option for Austin Peay moving forward.
And the Governors do have have 2 televised games this season. They had the Western Kentucky game to start off the year on week 0, and they'll have the Alabama game that I am consistently reminded of my bet about that. For those listeners that want to know, my bet is that if Alabama loses to Austin Peay, no matter what the score is, as long as Austin Peay, the Governors, beat the Crimson Tide, I will shave my head and beard completely. Now,
and I'm all for it.
I know you are.
I love it.
You're not the only one. Everyone's ready. I think I'll have like a line of people with clippers if that happens. Inside the studio too, because they want to film it. So that'd be great. I think it's a great transition though. Let's go into college football because we don't obviously have a lot of time today. But college football rankings real quick. Now I do not match what you're currently seeing on the screen. The graphics from that you're seeing currently on the screen is from the college football playoff rankings. Mine is from the AP poll. Number 1 right now, Georgia at 8-0. There is a tie for second place between Tennessee and Ohio State at 8-0. Michigan sits at number 4. Clemson number 5. Both of those teams 8-0. Alabama is still at number 6 at 7-1. TCU at 8-0 at 7. Oregon at 7-1. USC at 7-1, and UCLA rounds out the top 10 at 8-1. College football playoff rankings puts UT and Tennessee as the number 1 ranked team in the country, and finishing as the number 1 seed in the playoffs. Reece, you've been to multiple games this season. I know the atmosphere is completely different than what anyone's used to as a fan or as a follower, because I mean, I don't consider myself a fan, but I do consider myself a follower.
There we go.
Because they are a Tennessee team, right? And
that's right.
we both know mine isn't doing anything.
Yeah.
So
to say the least.
To say the least.
Yeah,
that's the hell. I mean, that's something different. So, but with that being said, tell me what's it like in the atmosphere for these stadiums?
Yeah, it's I've been going to games pretty much since I was 7, 6, 8 years old, somewhere around there. And this has been the most electric atmosphere through the years. Big games, you're not going to get a better place than Knoxville and Neyland Stadium, but this year especially, it has been unbelievable to see the passion and the pageantry and everything that these fans bring to Neyland Stadium in Knoxville. And right now, especially with Tennessee being the number 1 team in the nation, I mean, Neyland Stadium is the toughest place to play in college football. If you have to go in there, there's not a good chance you come out of there with a win. And we saw it against Kentucky, we saw it against Florida, we saw it against Alabama. I mean, all these high-class teams. I know Florida's down, don't get me wrong, but I mean, you're just seeing all these teams come in here, and it's just a different feel around the entire city of Knoxville. Right,
and you mentioned Florida being down. Regardless of whether we want to consider Florida having a down season this year or not, they're still Florida.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, just like Alabama is still Alabama, Florida's still Florida.
Yeah.
Now, Florida hasn't been consistent like Alabama has been in the last few years, but hey, it's still Florida.
Yeah. And what Florida's meant to Tennessee. I mean, we only beat them once.
We all know the Swamp is one of the harder places to play too. And Tuscaloosa's not easy to play in. Neither is playing it in Georgia.
Yeah.
So none of those places are easy to play. But this year, Neyland has everybody's number.
Yeah, it really does.
And it's not just inside the stadium; it's outside the stadium too. They're selling spots outside.
Yeah.
And
having watch parties, tailgates.
Crazy.
I mean, it's unbelievable what Danny White, the athletic director at Tennessee, has been able to do.
Much better job than the previous.
Yeah, much better job than the previous. Even with hiring the guys he's hired, so it's awesome. I'm enjoying my time as a Tennessee fan, and I've been lucky enough to go back home for 4 games this past season. So I call myself lucky.
Now Georgia is coming up this Saturday for UT. I have been talking about that game on and off air, but with both of you guys for a while now, and after getting a chance to see some more highlights, my tune's changing a little bit.
As it should.
Not fully, but my tune is changing a little bit. It's going to be a closer game than I thought it would be. Yeah. I do think that if Georgia gets like 40-something points, it's going to be a tough game for UT.
Yeah.
Georgia can't get into the 40s. Georgia can't get into the 30s really either.
Yeah.
You need to do kind of what you did to Kentucky. Just keep them down.
That's exactly
because
right.
that's the only way you beat Georgia. As soon as Georgia gets momentum, Georgia's going to start running. And regardless if you've still got momentum scoring, they're going to catch you.
Especially in their building. Sanford Stadium, we've already talked about it. It's a really tough place to play, and it's going to be even more electric with a 1-2 matchup coming, or excuse me, a 1-3 matchup coming in this weekend. And Georgia's on defense. They're only giving up 10.3 points a game.
Let's be honest. I know you say 1-3. Between the two teams, it's 1 and 2.
Yeah,
the fact that we have a tie in any poll for college rankings for the first time that I've seen in at least 5 years in the top 10 is ridiculous. Right. Tennessee should be sole possession number 2. Let's be real about that.
And really, if
1-1,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. If CBS was smart about marketing this, they could.
Right. Not even a 3-way tie. At least, I mean, I don't see why Ohio State gets the tie with Tennessee. I don't. Yeah, I mean, they've beaten what? 2 ranked teams?
No, 1. Well, they beat Notre Dame at the beginning, which was ranked number 5, but they've lost to Marshall. They've had a close game to Cal. They've got Clemson this week. There's no way they might not even make a bowl game, guys.
I mean, they will if they stick where they're at. You know what I mean in the rankings. But I mean that's because they stuck in the rankings. It doesn't mean they're going to win a bowl game.
You talking about Notre Dame?
Oh no, I was talking Ohio State.
No, I'm talking about Notre Dame.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about Notre Dame. Okay. Yeah, I see. That's my confusion. I was talking about tied over number 2 up there.
Oh yeah, Ohio State.
I don't see
They
why
played
they're
one
still-
ranked team.
Yeah. I mean, in Michigan, same way. I don't understand why Michigan. I don't understand why Clemson's up there. Clemson's schedule's been awful.
Yeah.
Even though they're great for those Clemson listeners, you're doing good. You're 8-0, but who have you played?
Exactly.
That's my question.
Exactly.
With that being said, I want to transition real quick, or not even quick. Let's transition over to NBA news. Something odd happened, Jahmar. You and I have talked about this recently. Yeah. A mutual understanding and agreement of a firing of a coach. Never happens in college. It never happens in any sport ever. Yeah. There's never really a mutual, we both should have agreed to part ways. Steve Nash is mutually let go with the Brooklyn Nets, and the Nets are targeting who again? I apologize, but my name.
Udoka.
And that was the coach that's suspended from the Celtics that is no longer a part of the Celtics organization.
He is a part. He's just suspended. But, I mean, they have his rights to where if another team wants to pick him up, they can. But, I mean, technically he's still a part of the Celtics organization.
Okay.
He's just suspended.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting to see the Nets talking about a coach that early after just letting Nash go. You know what I mean? Usually teams wait at least 24 hours. I mean, it was within an hour, and they were like, we're thinking about this guy.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, but, apparently, the analysts Woj and Shannon, they come out and they say that, and then the people with the Nets organizations, they say, we have not made any decisions yet. Because, I mean, literally right after you saw the headlines, the Nets plan to hire Coach Ime Udoka, which, I mean, we'll see if it happens. Apparently, I believe it was Woj said 24 to 48 hours is when it would happen. So
right, and we're in that 48-hour window now. Yeah. And then I know that there was a player on the Celtics that was extremely shocked from this finding, and he come out and said that it's baffling that he's even considering a job there. So interesting time still in the NBA, and I think that brings us into our recap. Obviously, you and I have talked a lot about the Lakers recently.
Because we can start with them.
I would love to start with them.
Okay.
I mean, it's always start with the bad and end with the good.
We talk
right?
about the Lakers, and see, you say that, and that's not right. We talk about the Lakers, and we say, every time we bring them up, it's always something bad, but I have to give them their flowers because obviously yesterday they got it done. I mean, it was a little ugly against the Pelicans, but they got it done. Obviously, a huge shot by Matt Ryan. The NBA Matt Ryan.
Right.
That three. I mean, it was a fading three in the corner. I think the Pelicans defense could have been better, but I mean, a good job of closing it. I didn't like LeBron in the closing minutes. They sat Russ in the closing lineup. They did not play him. But Russ is in contention. If the Lakers turn it around, Russ could be a 6 Man of the Year kind of candidate if he kind of continues to get these 18, 8-6 kind of games. I mean, that's huge for a backup point guard. So I mean, for him playing that role, it's really nice. But
he's living right next door to LeBron now.
Is he?
Yeah, he bought a 300 or it's like something like almost close to 300 million, something like that, house near LeBron.
Wow.
In LA.
I did not know that.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago. It was ridiculous. Which made me. That's why we had the conversation about him not being traded. I was like, he's not going anywhere because he just bought a house.
Is he shooting better from the arc at all? Better than 29% what he was last year. That was horrible.
I don't know what he's doing right now. I know that I watched highlights of the last two games. It wasn't the Pelicans game. There was a game I saw. I think a couple of days before that. He comes and brings the ball up the court, pass it, just throws it at LeBron like it's nothing, and then just stands there at the arc. Nobody's covering him. Nobody's on him. He's the man alone, and if he just got the ball, he could shoot a three. Yeah. But nobody's touching him because they know he's not going to make it. Yeah. And then LeBron sits there and sizes up the same defender for like 3 minutes when they're down by 6, needs to sink the three, and can't even hit the 3-point.
Russell Westbrook is 20.8% from the 3-point line.
20.8?
Yeah. So, I mean, not that good. But he's averaging 13, 7, and 5. I mean,
it's better. That's better than what he was.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's solid.
Coming off the bench, that's not bad either.
In reality, when you look at Russell Westbrook's stats last season, they weren't necessarily bad.
No,
I mean,
they
of
weren't.
course, he wasn't averaging triple-double, but it's just what he did on the court and in those situations that just didn't look good. But when you look at his numbers, he did not have a bad year.
I'm starting to think that it's not him. I mean, obviously I had been saying it was not him, that there was some sort of discourse between the team, and they just weren't somehow getting those pros to play together, because that's an all-star lineup when you start looking at some of the big names there. I mean, AD, LeBron, and Westbrook. I mean, that's huge.
We talk about this team, how their shooting is where they lack. Literally, a shooter saved them last night. That Matt Ryan crazy shot, they would have lost without that. So it's like that's what's separating them from being a good team, is that shooting. We saw multiple situations. I saw Lonnie Walker wide open in the corner to tie up the game. In the corner, he just misses. Yeah. Now Lakers need to pick up guys that'll hit that shot. Now I will give them credit.
Maybe that's their trade stuff now, is start viewing for shooters. Maybe.
But I don't know. You have to let go of pieces, and it doesn't look like they're going to let go of Russell Westbrook. So I don't know. They're going to have to shop some other pieces around.
Yeah. The question would be is what's the next piece to let go? I mean, especially after Westbrook's buying a house.
Yeah.
Jeez.
With that being said, do you got any other games you want to cover this week? I know we always talk about the Lakers because I just love dogging on LA, but
I said we can definitely look at some of the stats. Leading in assists this year, Chris Paul. I'm coming out of the mic and staying the mic, which is very impressive. James Harden was at 10. Obviously, we have that news.
Now, yeah.
Out for a month. What is it, a right
foot tendon. He strained a right foot tendon. He'll be out for at least a month.
Which that's tough seeing him go. But I think 76ers, I don't think they'll lose too much because they have Tyrese Maxey, which has really been proven to be a dog. Leading this year in scoring, Zach, I'm going to ask you to guess who you think it is.
Leading in scoring?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I hope it's Morant.
It is not
It's probably Giannis.
He's 5.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think it's Giannis, right?
Is it Giannis?
Giannis is 2. Luka's averaging 36 points per game.
Is it
right
Luka?
now. 36. Now, Giannis is 2 at 33. KD is at 32. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is at 31.5. He's really leading that Thunder team right now. Looking at blocks per game, you got Brook Lopez at 3. That's pretty impressive. But, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting. I'm looking at some of these teams. I like it. I definitely like how the NBA is shaping up to where we look at Cleveland Cavaliers. That's a team I'm really liking.
Cleveland looks really
They
good.
beat Boston last
really
night.
Good.
And
they really good.
I mean, starting lineup. I mean, you look at Karis LeVert, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen, and Evan Mobley. That's a nice starting lineup.
Would you say that this season, right, compared to last season, obviously, because last season had so much injuries, so many things happening, and then you had the COVID season and stuff too happen as well, right? Would you say that this season is more competitive because we no longer have the lockouts, we no longer have there's many injuries to many star players, that this could be a very good year for NBA at this time?
I think so. I mean, I think the West is shaping up to be, because I think the East last year was very competitive. I think that kind of has kept the competitiveness, but I think in the West, we're seeing where it looks like the Warriors aren't going to be a guarantee to make it this year. I mean, they're already struggling this year. So you look at teams like the Suns, they're looking good, but who knows what they'll do in the playoffs. You're looking at the Portland Trailblazers.
Who knows
that are 2 right now.
where they'll be going after they get sold, too. Phoenix,
That's true. That's true. But that's all I have for basketball. Excited to see what happens for the rest of the year. Obviously, I'm a Warriors fan. They need to turn it around right now, sitting at 12th in the conference at 3-5, but they'll do get better.
How's the Grizzlies doing real quick? Just
Grizzlies
out of curiosity.
are 5-3 at the 4 seed.
Okay, they're not doing bad. Better than
It's
I thought
early.
they'd be doing. It is very early.
Very early.
It is the Memphis Grizzlies for a reason. That's all I'm going to say. For those that are fan base of that organization, you completely understand the comment. We'll move on, though, to MLB playoffs as Houston and Philly will go 7 games after last night's second ever combo no-hitter to ever happen in the World Series. The Astros did it last night. That's historic. It's amazing for them to be able to do that. Both teams are tied at 2-2. I think right now.
I was going to say, I have a question. You said it will go 7 games.
It will go 7.
You're convinced that it will
Oh, no,
go
it
6.
has to. It has to at this point. They got 3 games left, right?
Yeah, but it's 2-2. So if the next 2 teams are won by the same team, then they would.
Well, true.
So
I think it's going to go 7. I think it's going to go 7.
You don't think it's going to happen?
Yeah, I think Dr. Barron from last week has actually got the most accurate assessment right now that it's 7. I believe he chose 7 in Philly, if my memory serves correctly.
He did say Philly in 7.
Because I said 6, and I think I said Houston in 6. And honest truth, if Houston dominates like they did in Game 4 and Game 5, then yeah, Houston's got it in 6 games.
Interesting stat to look at. Justin Verlander has never won a World Series game.
Really?
I learned that thanks to Phil Wood in my baseball class. He actually told us that. But
Shout out, Phil.
He has never won a World Series game. So this is a clutch factor. This is something, obviously, he has a potential to win the Cy Young this year. I mean, great in the regular season.
Right.
But when it comes to proving it, right here, it's Game 5. Take the lead of the series. He starts tonight. Let's see what he does.
And you mentioned Cy Young chances. I will say the only other one that might very well beat him and probably will beat him is Shohei Ohtani.
Mm-hmm.
Ohtani will probably beat him for Cy Young and really should beat him for MVP.
Man, that guy's good.
Oh, dude.
That guy's good.
He was one of the top 5 best pitchers, top 3 best pitchers in the league, top 3 best hitters in the league, too, and was able to qualify as both a hitter and a pitcher this season. That's impressive.
Unbelievable.
For the people that don't follow baseball, when you can play a pitching position and an outfielding position at the same time and be a two-way player, it's near impossible.
At the highest level.
Exactly.
This is
And
the highest
we
level.
haven't seen that from any athlete successfully since maybe Ruth. I mean, the Babe Ruth was pitching and hitting. I mean, and he was a fielder too. And I mean, that's the last time I remember somebody being able to. And granted, I don't remember that because I was too.
Yeah.
I wasn't even really a thought in my dad's eye yet. That being said, let's move on real quick to football.
I wanted to get Reese's. He didn't say who.
Reese, we never did ask you.
Yeah.
Who's winning the World Series, Houston or Philly?
I'll go Houston, and I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion, but the only reason I say that is because Houston is going to have home field advantage.
Oh yeah, I mean they get at least 2 games.
Exactly. So if they steal one, maybe even both. If they steal both, I mean the thing's over. You know what I'm saying? So and I think that they have a very good chance to do that. Really, with the pitchers they have coming up, it's going to be tough for the Phillies to stay on to stay on that track of what they've been doing.
It will be interesting to see if Bryce Harper and the Phillies can travel as well as they did the first time they went to Houston, because they played really well in Houston the first time. But since then, it's been a little bit iffy.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I am curious. I'll keep in mind your pick for next week when we talk about this, because the games will be over at the end of this week. I mean, we'll crown a World Series champion this weekend.
Yeah.
With that being said, it's time to move in the NFL. And before I get into standings, the Colts fired their offensive coordinator after switching quarterbacks and still having offensive woes. That's the latest firing within the NFL, because I just wanted to mention that first. If you switch from Matt Ryan to Sam Ehlinger and still had problems, you kind of expected that, right? I mean, I expected that.
They almost won, too, this past. They probably should have won this past weekend. They only scored 16 points, but, I mean, they
fired him right after the game.
Yeah.
I mean, literally after the game, Irsay, ring, ring, you're gone. Gosh. Click. That's it.
That'd be a horrible way to get fired. Horrible.
I finally got a quarterback I can work with.
Yeah.
Crap, I'm fired.
Oh, my.
All right.
Classic Colts.
Right, I mean, it is classic Indianapolis and classic Colts for them. Let's talk about the rankings right now. As the AFC North, the Baltimore leads 5-3 on top of the division. You've got AFC South with Tennessee leading at 5-2. The Buffalo Bills, who had an interesting game against Green Bay for a little while, were 6-1 now. Kansas City 5-2. Minnesota leading the NFC North at 6-1. I think the Vikings are real this year, guys. The NFC South, that's just having a struggle year. Atlanta currently leads 4-4 for that division. The NFC Beast, with some of the three best teams in the league right now, with Philly being 7-0 right now, and the NFC West, Seattle at 5-3. Speaking of the NFC Beast, Reece, I'll let you talk about this. You mentioned it to me earlier. I know I have it here. Your favorite team is having a possible sell. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I would say this weekend was probably one of the best weekends that I've ever had as a sports fan. As a Commanders fan, Tennessee fan, my alma mater back home, my high school team, they won to clinch a region championship. So,
right.
But anyways, so Daniel Snyder, one of the worst, I would say, human beings probably of all time. He is going to, or allegedly, hired somebody to sell the Washington Commanders, and really that couldn't be any more music to my ears. That's great.
They have partnered with First Bank Financial to start equating how much the team would cost to sell.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's been on the wall, writing on the wall for the last few weeks. We've been talking. You and I have been talking about this for the last couple of weeks. We talked about this at least once in one of the recent shows that you were here as well. It's great.
Yeah.
I think Dan Snyder should have been gone for. I mean, if the NBA can fire a guy right before the season starts, why do the NFL still have this guy? I mean, Robert Kraft is another guy that should have went forever ago, in my opinion.
Daniel Snyder's worse. I promise you, Daniel Snyder is worse.
You say
than
that.
Robert. I promise you, man.
Kraft is also one of the ones that got in trouble for the similar things that Snyder got into. So they actually are kind of in the same boat. The difference is that Snyder also had the Washington's former name and the other stuff attached to it as well. Whereas Kraft, the Patriots don't get any blames for anything they ever do, including Deflategate, Spygate, Tuck Rule, anything like that.
Sure.
Has there been any possible suitors to buy the team?
Jeff
Bezos, right?
Yeah, Bezos at the start of the offseason was rumored to buy Washington beforehand, because FedEx had decided that they were going to cut their name from Washington because they had not been the Commanders yet. They were still associated with the former name that I will not say on air, and not the football team, obviously. Yeah. And so Bezos wanted the team, but then I believe Roger Goodell and Jerry Jones nixed that one, if memory serves correctly. The owners' organization didn't like how much money Bezos was throwing around to try to buy the team.
Yeah.
Which was a similar standpoint to when Donald Trump tried to buy Buffalo a while back. Granted, that also fell through for other reasons. So, but
what about Elon Musk?
I mean, if Elon Musk owned a football team,
he just bought Twitter.
Man,
he just bought
Did you see him fire? Okay, so real quick, just a side note. He fired the Twitter executive on air during the Joe Rogan podcast instantly. When they admitted, she admitted to failing it, that they had failed doing some stuff. And he said, well, failure comes at a cost. You're fired. In the middle of an interview. And so she's stunned. Joe Rogan's stunned. The guest host is like, we're going to break. We're going to break. And then they're still showing the video of it. I mean, it was, working for that man scary.
Maybe he shouldn't buy Washington.
Yeah, because
might be in the same boat.
I was about to say that might be worse than what Daniel Snyder's been doing for the team these past few years. But
we don't have much longer, but I want to try to get into this. So NFL trade deadline was on Tuesday, November 1st. It happened at 3:30 our time, 4:30 Eastern time, right? That was the deadline. 10 players moved. The largest amount of players that have moved on an NFL trade deadline ever in history. Wow. The closest number, I believe, to that is 6 moving on deadline, and that hasn't happened for 10 years at least. So Many players have been on the move. Roquan Smith from the Bears to the Ravens, Chase Claypool from to the Bears from Pittsburgh, Bradley Chubb, who just re-signed today after being traded on Monday to the Dolphins, re-signed for $119 million, $63.5 million guaranteed. Chase Edmonds goes to the Dolphins from the Broncos. Jeff Wilson from San Francisco to Miami. Calvin Ridley goes to the Jags from the Falcons. Kadarius Toney, we talked about. He went to the Chiefs already. Mm-hmm. And Robert Quinn, we didn't mention. He came from the Bears and went to Philly, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, the one thing that I want to mention about these trades that I think is awesome, besides Bradley Chubb getting re-signed by the Dolphins immediately because Miami knew they got a beast for that trade, is the fact that Miami went and traded for the exact same backfield that Mike McDonald had when he was in San Francisco. And that is awesome and impressive. Whether anyone wants to, I mean, just a familiarity of having 3 running backs, is great.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, other than Elijah Mitchell's not there.
Yeah, right.
But still, Elijah Mitchell will probably become the backup anyways in San Fran now that Christian McCaffrey is there anyways. And they've got Debo too,
Yeah.
But with that being said,
back there.
let's get in to these picks, right? Thursday Night Football. Tonight, we have the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts, who's making an MVP candidacy right now, and very well could get it, playing against the Texans.
And Joanne picked the Texans.
She did. She did pick the Texans. In fact, everybody in our crew except for Joanne picked the Eagles. Joanne picked the Texans. Philly's favored by 13.5 points. The Texans look rough. They do not look together. Brandon Cooks will not play tonight. He's mad at the team. Who you got winning?
The Eagles by 40.
By 40.
No, I'm just playing. By 21.
21?
I was about to say I got the Eagles too. I got to get back on track. I've got the worst record out of anybody.
I mean,
this is horrible.
I don't know, man. I think Joanne's got you beat.
I think we're tied. I think we're both 11 and 12. I mean, we're under 500. That's horrible.
We're good.
I got to do better.
We're doing great. You got to get on at least get with us now. I mean, we're doing awesome.
I know. Yeah.
Literally. All right. So you got the Eagles?
Yeah, give me the Eagles.
All right. I got the Eagles as well. I think it's going to be more like 24, 30 points. I really do. I don't think the Texans can stand a chance against Philly and Smith and them. They're playing too well. Sunday Night Football, the Titans versus the Chiefs. A lot of people are picking the Titans for this game, but there's a question mark at quarterback at Ryan Tannehill. It could be Malik Willis instead. The Chiefs, obviously, just getting another wide receiver in trade, arming up their facility. This is also our game of the week this week. Chiefs are favored by 12.5 points. I've got Kansas City and then some. I get it. Tennessee can beat Kansas City. But I've got Kansas City and then some because the Chiefs have just looked that good. Who do you got?
Chiefs.
Chiefs all the way?
Yes, sir.
What about you?
Yeah, Chiefs. Got to get back on track. That's going to be my motto for these next couple games, man. Got to get back on track.
So is that why you chose the Ravens for Monday night?
Honestly, that was the one game I thought about picking the Saints for. I swear to you.
Was it despite me? Is that what it was?
Maybe.
Okay,
maybe.
I see. It is.
But no.
All right. Well, that brings us to Monday Night Football. The Baltimore Ravens will play the New Orleans Saints. Jahmar and I will be here, obviously, at Austin Peay for a basketball game, but I will be watching some of that closely as I can be at the time.
Better keep your eyes on the court.
I will. Baltimore favored by 3 there. I'm obviously taking the Ravens. I think the Ravens are going to win by 7, although Rashad Bateman is now officially out for the season with a foot injury and will undergo surgery today. That is a very big blow to them. I still think the Ravens win that by at least 7 to 10 points. Jahmar, what you got?
I picked the Bucks against the Ravens last week, and I got that wrong. So I won't pick against Baltimore again. So I'm going to go ahead and pick them. Yeah.
Primetime games, man. They're great, aren't they? It's the only time we're good.
Ravens flock, let's fly.
I'll
take Ravens.
Thank you, except you almost sounded like Russell Wilson trying to tell me Broncos country, let's ride. So speaking of which, if you ever do high knees, if either one of you ever do high knees when we're traveling for somewhere, I'm going to tell you to sit down. That's the most ridiculous thing ever. And I love Justin Tucker come out and was like, I think Lamar's leading us through high knees with this plane ride.
But no, you saw what he said at the end. He said, Ravens flock, let's fly.
Oh, I didn't see that. Yeah, that's great. I didn't even get that.
The joke.
I was going to say, that's almost a shout-out to you, but you
I appreciate it. I am a huge fan of this. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much each week, week in and week out, coming to this show and helping me and being here in general and being a part of this show. I'm always thankful for that. Reminder, you can catch us at APSU CrunchTime. That's at APSU CrunchTime on Instagram and Twitter. Talk to us throughout the week. Answer our questions as we talk about what's going on throughout all sports. You can even catch live setups as well, and you can also find us on Podbean for our podcast of this show as well. Gentlemen, once again, thank you so much for letting us do this show. Thank you, Doc V, for giving us a facility. Big thanks to Trey, Jay, Wicks, Joanne, and Steve Sawyer and David Ellison as well for letting us be here. It's been a great episode on Crunch Time, and we'll see you next week.